Now, if you really want to know what the Broncos' needs are this offseason, just get Sean Payton in front of Kay Adams.
We need a joker.
You need a Reggie Bush.
An interior, and a joker now can be a tight end or a running back. We'll look closely through the middle. Inside linebacker, safety.
Shut the hell up, Sean. Shut up. Shut up. Why are you being so transparent about the Broncos' needs?
Either tight ends or running backs.
Jokers.
That they have to be elite receivers.
Anyway, according to some reports, there may be some real steam building behind a Stephen A. Smith presidential run.
I certainly think that I could beat any of those candidates that you put on the screen. I can tell you that right now. I certainly think if I was running up against somebody like you, I would win that race too.
I'm actually voting for Kay Adams. She's our last hope. Send her in to deal with world leaders.
What's it like to be the king in New Orleans this week? What's it like to be back?
And then we will watch as they bend the knee, spilling their guts as they try and earn her good graces.
Veteran wide receiver go in which bucket?
I think a better wide receiver fits in a need.
Watch as she asks the right questions and hypnotizes them into telling the truth. USK, USK, USK. Seriously though, we do need to give Kay Adams a ton of credit for being on the Broncos bandwagon before pretty much anyone else in the media.
87, Cortland, let's go. 10 touchdowns last year, what can you build on that?
Sean's loose lips stated that Denver will be looking for a joker type player. An elite catcher of the ball who can operate in and out of the backfield. Did Sean Payton reveal anything else for step 2 of the Broncos rebuild? Today, I will look at what needs the Broncos have and what they can address realistically via free agency and then the draft to, yes, become contenders in the year 2025. Yes, we crossed 705,000 subs. Thank you guys. And I did it. I submitted my picks to be featured on Underdog. And yes, I faded the Chiefs because I'm not a coward. Seeing the words, you guessed it, Perna's fading the Chiefs on the official Underdog app means I might have peaked. If you want to support today's sponsor, Underdog, do it by using my code THATSGOOD when you sign up. Outside of Patrick Mahomes going for under 251 passing yards, I think Saquon going over 115, Kelsey going under 62.5, and Devontae Smith getting at least 5 grabs are actually solid picks. My hater picks are available to anyone who signed up with my code THATSGOOD, so come be a hater with me on Underdog. You guys have already netted me 5,157 signups. I can't tell you how much that has helped this channel, and knowing you guys fuck with me at that level means we're going to keep pushing forward, and that I can make sure guys like Will Keys, who help write these episodes, Johnny Barks, who helps edit, are taken care of. We have 3 months left to hit 10,000 signups, and if we do that, nobody is stopping us ever. Nobody. Look, the Broncos 2024 season was a pleasant surprise. Losing in those playoffs never felt so good. Oh, thank you, sir. May I have another ass kicking in the playoffs. Now, with just 30-ish million in dead cap money this year, the Broncos are going to be players in free agency again. And last year, with no money, they actually made some damn good free agent signings. The Broncos have all of their draft picks for the first time since the Russell Wilson trade. So yeah, Denver is entering their contender window. It's a cracked window, it's on the second floor, requires a ladder, but that fucking window's open nonetheless. Now, to follow Sean Payton's philosophy, let's break down today's episode into the Broncos' musts, needs, and wants.
And the purpose of that is then to establish what we call musts, needs, and wants.
Must, needs, want.
What's the difference between a must and a need? If I'm dying of thirst, there's no difference between saying I must have a glass of water or that I need a glass of water. Either way, I'm gonna die if I don't have a glass of water. If I say I want a glass of water, there's not just that sense of urgency, is there? I'll probably even put a lemon slice in it if I only want a glass of water. Did that clear things up for you? Anyway, this is the first offseason the Broncos don't need a quarterback or must have a new head coach since 2015. Their general needs with those two chess pieces in place, in no particular order, are 1 to 2 offensive weapons, inside linebacker, defensive line, and possibly a piece in the secondary. The Broncos' key unrestricted free agents include defensive lineman DJ Jones, both backup quarterbacks, running back Javonte Williams, punter Riley Dixon, linebackers Cody Barton and Justin Stranad, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and fullback Michael Burton. We know Javonte's gone, and I'm guessing DJ Jones is gone, but that's a very manageable list of free agents right now. Outside of DJ Jones possibly leaving, there's no giant hole to fill, right? So let's start with the musts. Sean Payton said he must have a joker.
Either tight ends or running backs
Jokers.
that they have to be elite receivers.
And I don't even really know exactly what a joker is.
I'm an idea.
But that term gets used a lot, so it must be pretty important, right? And if you don't want a Jared Leto joker, you need a Heath Ledger, a Joaquin Phoenix, maybe a Jack Nicholson. Could always grab Jokic, who's already in Denver. George Kittle has a year left on his contract. Otherwise, that dude literally has the Joker tattooed on his body. The most obvious example of a Joker in this draft would be Penn State's tight end Tyler Warren, who's currently the 5th best player on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. Now, Warren played all over the field, including taking snaps under center, out of the gun, and even snapping the ball on a play where he caught a touchdown at USC. I know Sean Payton saw that play and immediately spit the juicy fruit out of his mouth.
He's played quarterback, he's thrown passes, he's run a quarterback sneak, he's been a runner, he's been a receiver, he's really done it all.
Warren was designed in a lab to get Payton to ruin a pair of jeans, but it's probably unlikely that he gets to Denver without some kind of trade up in the draft, and I don't think they'll be super antsy to move draft capital this early in their rebuild. The more likely option available at pick 20 is Michigan tight end Colston Loveland. Sean Payton has already had success with a guy named Colston, and there's a town and ski resort in Colorado called Loveland. Seems kismet, especially since Daniel Jeremiah has mocked Loveland going to the Chargers at 22. But waiting for round 2 to draft Miami's Elijah Arroyo is an option for a tight end who might be the fastest one in this draft. A true second-round joker could very well be Arizona State running back Cam Skattebo.
Come out and punch him in the mouth.
He can catch, he can even throw, but Skattebo trails only Ashton Jeanty in yards after contact in this draft class with 1,202 and 102 forced missed tackles. The Broncos' offensive line was one of the better units in terms of yards before first contact for their running backs. Cam's the kind of player who could give Denver that 6 to 8 yards per pop instead of the dreaded 3. The Broncos kind of found a joker already in Marvin Mims. He's a wideout that took snaps at running back, but I think that was partially out of necessity to spice up a really non-dynamic backfield for the Broncos this last season. Regardless, Mims' development this season I think gives the Broncos a lot more options in how they continue to build their offense moving forward. But the guy to keep an eye on is
Treveyon Henderson in the open field.
the running back out of Ohio State, who could end up being the Broncos' joker if he makes it to Denver's pick in the 2nd round. He really does it all. He's got breakaway burst as a runner, he's a strong receiver, and he can block out of the backfield. Think Aaron Jones in terms of doing it all out of the backfield. None of the Broncos' backs were all 3-down guys last year, or at least they weren't excelling at anything. Javonte Williams used to be that guy, but hasn't had the same burst since his tragic knee injury all the way back in 2022. So the joker position is a must for Sean Payton as an offensive coach, and I think they will address it via the draft. So let's hit the Broncos' needs. Again, I have no idea how need is different from must, but it's clearly a lower priority tier according to Sean Payton, so we'll work off of that framework, even if it's crazy. Kay Adams suggested a veteran wide receiver, one to pair opposite Courtland Sutton when they were chatting.
I think a better wide receiver fits in a need. We're stronger there than some would think.
Courtland Sutton also got some praise from Chiefs corner Trent McDuffie.
You know, I think he's really good, Courtland Sutton from the Broncos. Absolutely. Yeah, he's had a super good year.
Now, Payton already mentioned that he's a fan of the receivers they drafted a year ago.
Devon Bailey, Troy Franklin.
And there's no reason not to think that Devon Bailey isn't going to remain a mainstay in the offense after the chemistry he showed with Bo Nix in each of their rookie seasons. Troy Franklin was definitely a tough watch at times during the season, but he and Bo finally connected on that long-awaited deep ball in the playoffs against Buffalo. If Troy can do that just 2, 3, 4 times more a season, flash that elite speed and hang on to the ball, he's also going to be part of the offense. So with that in mind, I don't think receiver is necessarily as big of a need as running back or tight end. But if the right opportunity presents itself, Denver is going to be in the market for an experienced guy on the outside. You're going to hear plenty about Garrett Wilson, who's been unhappy in his situation with the New York Jets, and I'm sure the Broncos are going to explore that, especially with their relationship with new Jets general manager Darren Muji. But I'd keep an eye on the other Jets receiver. Zach Seegers from Let's Talk Broncos mentioned Davante Adams as a potential trade candidate. The Jets are going to want to get younger. Denver has the cap room to take that hit, and the price tag is likely going to be a late round pick. Adams is on the back half of his career, obviously, but it's worth noting that a terrible Jets season really obscured the fact that Adams had nearly 1,100 yards in just 14 games, the 5th straight season he's crossed 1,000 yards. Now, outside of Adams, who can be had for cheap, Cooper Kupp is going to be somewhere other than Los Angeles this season. But I'm not sure how much you want to hitch your wagon to a player who's missed 18 games over the last 2 seasons. Chris Godwin also coming off an injury, but he's only going to be 29 years old next season, and before he got hurt last year, he had nearly 600 yards and 5 touchdowns in just 7 games. He's also had at least 1,000 yards in 4 of the last 5 seasons prior to 2024, and that's pretty impressive considering Mike Evans is getting a ton of targets on the other side. And while I personally fantasize about T. Higgins in a slightly different shade of orange next season, I know he will be far outside of the Broncos' price range and will command, max dollar and probably land with the fucking Chargers. If the Broncos think of receiver as a bigger need than they're letting on, then they might be able to draft a receiver at 20. Texas wideout Matthew Golden and Ohio State Emeka Egbuka could be available right there at 20. Now, just like you can never have too many corners, you can also never have too many dogs on the defensive line. If DJ Jones departs, the defensive line, I think, becomes a need. It was a massive area of strength in 2024. Zach Allen is officially a monster, and the Broncos might want to hand him a blank check right now. John Franklin Myers was an absolute steal, and Malcolm Roach, a very good free agent pickup. He can immediately fill in for DJ Jones, but if there's maybe a bit of a surprise in the draft, it's the Broncos drafting interior defensive line at pick 20. It's a hefty draft class at that position. If, say, Walter Nolan from Mississippi or Kenneth Grant from Michigan or Derek Harmon or TJ Sanders are sitting there around 20, Denver could certainly call their name or even move back a couple spots to take one of them. I still think there's a 50-50 shot DJ Jones comes back. It's going to depend on the money and how the Broncos actually view this draft class at that position. Now, the reason this could be more of a want in the Broncos' eyes, DeAndre Tillman, who was an excellent find from the UFL. He's an exclusive rights free agent. I expect him back. And now we're down to our wants. Who does Sean Payton want?
We'll look closely through the middle. Inside linebacker, safety.
You could certainly argue this is a need, but I think the Broncos are going to want to upgrade their secondary. Now, they already have the best corner on planet Earth and Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain, and they have the Dreamcast, Riley Moss, on the other side. Jaquan McMillan is great in the slot, but he's going to be a unrestricted free agent next season. He's a restricted one right now. But we saw what happened when either PS2 or the Dreamcast weren't on the field. It changed everything, and this is the second season Riley Moss has missed time with an injury. I like what Chris Abrams-Drain did when he got an opportunity late in the season, but you can never have too many corners in 2025, especially in a division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. You need a guy who's not going to get torched by Jerry Jeudy on national television if he's thrust into the lineup like we saw with Levi Wallace. I would also bet Denver wants to upgrade on safety PJ Locke. Now, I like Locke quite a bit, but he's a potential cap casualty, and I think the Broncos want to get someone new opposite Brandon Jones, who was a great bargain acquisition last year out of Miami. Denver's also been linked to 49ers safety Talanoa Hufanga, who was a first-team All-Pro back in 2022, but has missed 17 games over the last 2 seasons thanks to a torn ACL. But that was all the way back in Week 11 of the 2023 season, so you can probably feel pretty good about a 25-year-old bouncing back from that and returning to full strength. The Niners got to pay Brock Purdy, so Hufanga would be a huge get for the Broncos. Daniel Jeremiah has Denver drafting a safety at pick 20. He's got South Carolina's Nick Amanawari. He compared him to Derwin James. Will he body slam Travis Kelce? If so, then let's draft him. Actually, let's trade up to number 1 overall and draft him. I need a Kelce breaker. The other possible first-round safety is Malachi Starks from Georgia. Daniel Jeremiah has him ranked as his 33rd best player, but PFF has him as their 7th overall best player. Pick 20 is a great spot to address Denver's big 3 needs: tight end, D-line, or safety. Now, the Broncos didn't really miss a beat after Alex Singleton, our linebacker, tore his ACL in Week 3, thanks to a strong season from Cody Barton. But Denver could do better at inside linebacker should the opportunity present itself. Singleton will be back, and I think Drew Sanders is ready for a bigger role. And even though injuries are at an all-time low for the Broncos, that doesn't seem to apply to linebacker. Depth is always welcome there. Now, middle linebacker isn't a premier position anymore, so it wouldn't cost an arm and a leg in free agency, unless you want to go after a guy like Zack Baun, who Sean Payton drafted back in New Orleans, but most certainly would cost at least 3 limbs after the kind of season he's had in Philly. Your best bet is to find the next Zack Baun and save some money. Nick Bolton, Ernest Jones, and Dre Greenlaw are all free agents this offseason. I love the idea of adding Nick Bolton, if only because he's a key member of the Chiefs' defense, but I think the Broncos could declare Jihad. Jihad Campbell out of Alabama, the top-rated inside linebacker in the draft. I think all Broncos fans are hoping for one splash free agent signing, but the nice thing is knowing Denver really is that close to becoming a legit contender. I'm fine with multiple low-key free agent signings. Just kidding. Give me one big fucking name. Give me one name. And then another Brandon Jones and Malcolm Roach and hit on 2 to 3 draft picks again. And this team is a lot better in 2025. Oh God, my expectations are getting pretty high. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports here on YouTube. Please subscribe to this channel. It's how I make a living.